My name is Andrea Stowell, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Cary Strickland.
Great. I see from the folks chiming in that the audio is back. We will get this through, you guys. We're glad to be with you.
Wonderful. The webinar today is being brought to you by the Sanitation Technology Platform, otherwise known as STEP. We are a program of the Innovation Advisors Consulting Group at RTI International. STEP helps transformative technologies reach the people worldwide who need them most. And we do that by providing a full range of services, including field testing, market intelligence, and user insights to help both the investor community and industry develop products and services that address market and consumer needs. We're funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to de-risk path to market and accelerate commercialization for the Reinvented toilet portfolio that we'll be telling you about today. With over 2 billion people across the world lacking access to basic safe sanitation, radical transformative change is required to solve the world's sanitation challenges. But despite the chronic challenges that exist, business as usual approaches to sanitation are still in use. On one end of the spectrum, you have hanging toilets, pit latrines, and septic tanks that present a wide variety of issues ranging from poor user experience to environmental contamination that lead to increased disease outbreaks. It's also expensive to empty pit latrines, and often no to minimal fecal waste is treated. Sewers, on the other hand, are expensive to install and maintain. They require vast quantities of water to transport sewage from the point of generation to the point of treatment, and they don't always guarantee adequate treatment of waste. Water stress further amplifies the need for sanitation technologies that do not rely on water inputs. We expect that sewer expansion will be particularly challenging in regions such as India, China, Africa, and the Middle East, where stress is already high and is projected to become even more acute by 2040. The Reinvented Toilet program is designed to address today's limitations. There are 4 key covenants that were set forth in the Gates Foundation's endeavor to reinvent the toilet. Solutions should, number 1, eliminate pathogens in both the liquid and solid waste streams, resulting in immediate on-site and downstream benefits to public health and the environment. This includes the destruction of helminth eggs. They also need to operate off the grid without need for external inputs like water and energy. This allows for installation in remote locations in areas where low utility access or intermittent supply persists. Also, with a foundation focus on serving bottom-of-the-pyramid markets, the technologies have to be affordable and sustainable such that service providers, whether they be public or private entities, can recoup the complete life cycle cost of the solution. They basically need to be able to make a business work, and the solution needs to be sustainable in the long run. And finally, they need to be modular and attractive and designed with the user experience in mind. In 2011, the Gates Foundation kicked off their efforts to reinvent the toilet with a challenge to technologists and researchers to essentially collapse the sanitation value chain and truly revolutionize the way waste is managed. By accomplishing containment and treatment in one unit, there is now no longer a need to transport unsafe waste for off-site treatment. Water is treated and recycled for flushing, conserving water while also avoiding spills, leaks, and evaporation during transport and treatment. Some RTs can even produce energy, clean water, or ash that can be sold to offset costs. There are 2 types of reinvented toilets that are being developed. The first is the single-unit reinvented toilet, otherwise known as the SURT. These solutions are designed to support households or small commercial properties with 10 or fewer people. The second category of technologies is the multi-unit reinvented toilet, or the MURT. These are designed to connect to multiple toilets and meet the needs of dozens or even hundreds of people. Common use cases for the MURT include apartment complexes, community and public toilets, religious sites, factories, and even schools. The market opportunity for the reinvented toilet is not insignificant. We project that the market has a total potential upside of around $6 billion annually by the year 2030. The provision of associated sanitation equipment and services at both the individual and municipal scale will also further expand this opportunity for private sector to enter. While this estimate may vary based on how the RT is launched, we do feel confident that it represents an opportunity. There may be ways to be involved in the ecosystem, from either a manufacturer to a servicer to a vertically integrated solution provider. The MURT systems have already undergone pilot testing, and Cary is going to highlight a couple of those for you today that are ready for commercial deployment. To help bolster this new marketplace, there are more than 50 publicly available resources on the STEP website that are available to all of you. They characterize the market and define user insights that you can both evaluate and plan for market entry. Furthermore, the Gates Foundation also continues to support market establishment and growth through technology and market development through their engagement with the private and public sectors. The greatest opportunity for the reinvented toilet is in emerging economies, and we've segmented these countries into two general groups. The largest opportunity is estimated at about $3.2 billion a year in 2030, and it includes countries with high reinvented toilet need and market readiness that are pushing towards improved sanitation immediately. They're doing this now. In the other group, representing about a $500 million opportunity by 2030, also has high RT need, but the market dynamics are slightly more challenged, and there's some additional effort required to unlock the revenue potential there. These are the countries highlighted in yellow. We also see mature economies building towards an inflection point that will create more opportunity for on-site sanitation, presenting a potential market of around $1.7 billion annually by 2030. This is largely Europe and North America. As sewers start to age out and water stress becomes more prominent, we see opportunities for early adopters in these regions as well. China, India, and South Africa all offer significant market opportunities. They all have high need for reinvented toilets and are focused on improving sanitation. China represents by far the largest global market opportunity with over $1 billion in annual revenue potential. With sewer expansion projected to reach over 80% by 2030, though, the market is dominated, we believe, by MURTs, with early adopters at tourist sites, in non-residential buildings in rural areas, and urban green infrastructure. With China in particular, there is a need to move quickly before sanitation investments are complete, and rapid market entry in China it should be enabled by existing partners and a relatively mature ecosystem, even in rural areas. However, we feel pretty strongly that it's critical to engage with government at all levels in China in order to penetrate that market opportunity. With a $620 million potential annual market opportunity, India has also seen tremendous expansion in toilet access in recent years. This has largely been catalyzed by their national Swachh Bharat program. Recent government initiatives have also emphasized water conservation, which aligns nicely with the reinvented toilet's core value propositions. There's a near-term opportunity for MURTs in public spaces and apartment buildings, but a need to move quickly because the landscape in India is changing now. Finally, South Africa. It's a smaller market, but with the potential for regional unlock. In South Africa, municipalities will be the primary drivers, which may offer some opportunities to reach many users through consolidated pathways. Water demand in South Africa is expected to exceed supply by 17% in 2030, which we've already started to see evidence of in this past year. Within each of these three archetypes, there are highly visible, high need, and high credibility segments that offer critical pilot opportunities that will both build awareness and unlock market opportunities across geography. For example, military installations right there at the top of the page have the potential to generate key learnings about how to get products into remote rural applications, and so therefore may have unlocked potential into rural markets. Furthermore, deploying in rural hospitals and emerging economies are likely to inspire confidence in the reinvented toilet, allowing for broader potential adoption. And refugee camps at the bottom in the yellow segment are likely to generate key learnings for serving high-traffic public areas, along with helping deployers deal with challenges such as overuse and potential vandalism. You would like more information about the market opportunity and characterizing these early adopter segments, please visit the STEP Resource Center, where you can get both a global view as well as deep dives into priority country markets. There are several links on the side of the page there that will take you directly to those resources, and then Cary is going to point you more generally to our website at the end of the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea. So that gives you all an idea for the market opportunity, where we think the best opportunities lie. At this point, we're going to transition to talking about the technologies that are available to enable you to execute on some of these opportunities. I did want to mention, as I make that transition, if you have questions about this first half or so of the webinar, and we will leave some time for questions at the end, so go ahead and toss those in the chat box as we go, if there are questions you want us to address at the end. So let's talk about the technologies, where we are. Where are we today? You may have seen this kind of S-curve in the past that's used to describe the technology adoption process. As time goes on along the horizontal axis, more and more of a particular technology's addressable market is captured along the vertical axis, moves upwards. So we see existing sanitation solutions, so there we're talking about sewer and septic systems, as nearing saturation in their addressable markets for those particular solutions. That means, yes, there is still market expansion, but it comes via growth in the market, like new home construction. MURTs, in comparison, are early in the kind of early adoption process. So they're at the point where there are some that have started to see some commercial success and are moving towards an inflection point of accelerated market adoption. The SURTs are a little bit behind the MURTs. They're undergoing pilot trials right now with a few willing early adopters and testers that are the first to experience these kinds of solutions. We expect commercial versions of the SURTs in the market in the next few years. So let's talk about some of the specific technologies. Right, we're showing three here, two examples from a company called Clear and one from a company called EcoSan. These are two manufacturers in China. These systems are in the market and available now. If you reached out to these companies, they would be able to offer solutions for you. The version on the left from Clear, this is one that has 4 stalls and the capacity to support 600 users per day. The one on the right from EcoSan has 5 stalls and the capacity to support 800 users per day. So similar setups there that include both stalls for people to use and the back-end treatment system. The version in the middle is a back-end only processing unit that can be connected to any existing toilet system and support 6,000 users a day. So larger scale there, 10 times as many users per day, but it's designed as back-end only. So it's meant to be connected to existing toilet systems. The processing unit used in the EcoSan toilet on the right is also available as a standalone back-end treatment solution. So that highlights that most of these manufacturers are planning to offer systems in multiple configurations with or without the front end and perhaps with different numbers of stalls depending on the configuration. The operating cost is only a few cents per person per day. The retail price of the units will depend heavily on location, on the specific configuration that you need for your use case. Like I mentioned, the manufacturers are planning to offer several versions of each. Initial projected price per MURT could range from, we think, $5,000 to $8,000 a unit US for a unit that's sized to serve about 10 households or around 50 people. Multiple configurations are offered, so you definitely want to contact manufacturers directly if you want to understand more about retail costs for your location and use case. So those are the ones in the market now. Let's talk about the ones that are coming soon. So there are several other MURT systems in development. I've highlighted 3 here that are nearing commercialization. The system on the left is being developed by SCG in Thailand. It's a back-end processing unit that's designed to be connected to 4 stalls with traditional flush toilets. It's being designed to serve 130 users a day at an estimated cost of only 10 cents US per user per day. The system's nearing commercialization with a 50-unit pilot trial underway and manufacturing scale-up to follow. So that one's coming soon. The one in the middle is the new generator being developed by the University of South Florida in the United States. This system is particularly flexible, particularly scalable. The picture here shows a pilot trial where it was connected to 2 self-cleaning toilets built by a company called ERAM in India. The current system design serves 60 or slightly more users per day at an estimated operating cost of around 9 cents. The system on the right is the reclaimer being developed by MSR Health and Duke University Center for Wash Aid in the United States. This one is a liquid waste treatment system that can be connected to a toilet block or paired with another RT system. It processes between 100 and 200 liters per day, treats black water to comply with the ISO 30500 standards, which is the standard for non-sewered sanitation systems. So what about the SURTs? Where are they? We said they were coming soon, but maybe a couple years out. They are still in development, but I think really exciting and have some great potential. Many of the details, like the cost, aren't worked out yet. So that's why you see some to-be-determined bubbles here on our slide. But you can expect to see these systems maturing in the next couple of years. They're being designed in several different sizes. The one on the left combines all the waste processing machinery into a piece of equipment not much larger than a Western-style pedestal toilet is today. The one in the middle, being developed by EVOG, it's built into a superstructure with front end, so the toilet stall above and treatment processes below. The one on the right, being developed by Helbling, is roughly the size of a large appliance. So you can see they're taking a lot of different forms as these kind of move to commercialization. All are currently still in the prototype phase, but being designed, hopefully by goal, to operate off-grid in the future. So in addition to continued development of these and others, you may have read some press about a new effort with the Gates Foundation that's being led by a professor at Georgia Tech that will field 6 more prototypes over the next 3 years. So be on the lookout for news about these prototypes as they start to come out into the world and mature. That effort just started, so it may be a while before we see much press or concrete systems out of it, but you can be on the lookout for that. So then finally, the Reinvented Toilet program, it's not just about toilets. We recognize that there are a host of other enabling technologies that can make a positive impact on improving sanitation. So the Gates Foundation, we'll give you a few examples of those. The Gates Foundation's WASH team has partnered with Firmenich to develop a really interesting breakthrough malodor blocking chemistry that actually blocks the receptors in the human nose that detect foul odors. Another partner, EOS in Europe, has developed a novel source separation interface that separates urine and feces to enable separate treatment. And the one on the right, being led by Biomass Controls in the US, is a sanitary pad incinerator designed to reduce particulate emissions. So you can see that we recognize that treatment and providing stalls for people to use is only part of the equation. The whole experience is important. Menstrual health management is important. The user experience related to odor is important. All these things impact the adoption of these sanitation solutions as they move out. So we did want to mention, beyond the initial R&D contribution and continued support of some R&D, the Gates Foundation is continuing to help expand the industry in two ways, both by working on the enabling environment, preparing markets for these systems to come into their own. So that's collaborating with local governments to enhance focus on water reuse, enhance demand for sanitation solutions, implement the international product standard for non-sewage sanitation, the ISO 30500, and then also in marketplace readiness to foster a supportive regulatory environment for these reinvented toilet solutions and leverage relationships with development banks to facilitate access to finance. So that concludes the bulk of our content for today. We want to encourage you to visit the STEP website or reach out to us directly if you have more questions about these technologies, about the opportunity. Andrea described the STEP program a little bit before, but essentially we work to help these emerging technologies transition across the pioneer gap, get from the development stage to commercial launch by providing resources and services that address both desirability, feasibility, and viability. So on our website, you'll find information about the reinvented toilets, as well as omniprocessors and omni-ingestors that we didn't cover today, market opportunity reports that will help you understand the market opportunity in each of the geographies that Andrea spoke about in much more detail, stakeholder perspective studies that are really important if you are starting to think about what kind of solution do you want to offer to the marketplace. This will help you with some of that early user discovery research to understand people's desires and preferences related to sanitation, and some best practices and guidance documents that will help you prepare for pilot testing or field testing, prepare for your own user studies to get feedback on your specific solution. So where do you find this information? There are two URLs over on the right that I want to point out to you. The first is our main site at stepsforsanitation.org. This is where you'll find the market opportunity reports, the stakeholder perspectives, information on all the technologies. The second, you can go to it directly or reach it from our main website. I see that you do not have URLs displayed on your screen. We'll make sure to include these URLs in the survey that we send out when we send out a follow-up email after the discussion today. But the second to mention is the technology directory, which is meant to be a repository of the technologies that have been funded through the Reinvented Toilet program. So we talked about a few of those technologies today. There are a lot more that you can go and read about, learn about. We're making improvements to the tech directory all the time. We've made some visual enhancements this week to make it a little easier to understand and navigate. As we have them available, we're including photos and videos of the technologies. You can learn about which ones have patent protection. You can see all the different technologies that are associated with a particular partner if you want to. So I would encourage you to spend some time looking around the technology directory, getting to understand more about the solutions that are available to help you make your way into the sanitation marketplace. And as always, feel free to reach out to us directly if you have any questions. So we are at the point, I think, in our discussion where we can open it up for some Q&A. I see some folks typing in. If you have questions that you'd like Andrea and I to address, either about the market opportunity or about the technologies, we'll give you a couple minutes to type those into the chat box now. So we'll go quiet for just a couple minutes and give you some time to load in your questions. All right, so I see, Michael, you've chimed in with a question for more details about the source separator from EOS. We can certainly do that. It's not a technology that I happen to know particularly well, but we will walk you through and show you the information that we have available there. So I think at this point, we're going to shift over our screen sharing so that you can see us navigating into the technology directory.
Go to Adobe again.
Mm-hmm.
Share. What?
All right, great. So hopefully now you can all see the technology directory. So this is how it's laid out. When you come to the site, you have a few options. You can go here to see a listing of all the partners, click into them, and see the technologies that are associated with them. You can go here to see complete systems. So these are systems that treat both solid and liquid waste. Or go here to see subcomponents, so either processing technologies that treat either solid waste or liquid waste, and the enabling components. So I'm going to go into the enabling components section because I know that's where the EOS system lives, and scroll down. So you'll see a few options when you come to the any of the pages, whether it's complete systems, processing technologies, or enabling components. The first thing you'll see is the ability to choose some different options and filter the entries based on what you've chosen. For enabling components, we don't have very many filters, just some filters for a few different kinds. So you can also just scroll directly down to find the technology that you're interested in. So Michael's question, we're talking about the source separation interface from EOS. So we can go into that entry. You see here there are a few different photos for this particular one. There aren't many, but there's a couple. There's some contact information if you want to reach out to them directly and learn more about it. There's an overview, gives you an idea of what sort of use cases it is appropriate for. So this particular separation interface is appropriate for it can be used in both wipe or wash installations with any sort of flush water source. So it passively separates urine. So when using this interface with some other components that are offered, it can efficiently separate solid feces and flush water and urine. So if your treatment solution depends on treating urine and feces separately, this can enable you to do that. So as you continue down in the entry, you can expand these boxes to learn a little more about the technology. This one in particular, there's not a lot else to say. There are a couple different interface types, which means it's not just for a squat toilet or it's not just for a pedestal toilet. There are versions for either one. Power systems, it's a passive separation design, so there aren't electronic components or actuators here that need to be powered. It is currently in active development. It is ready to purchase and be used. You can learn some more about the commercialization opportunities here. There was some testing of the pedestal design version that occurred in Durban, South Africa last year. Initial partnership for commercialization has been established, and it's patent pending. You can also see at the bottom where this particular technology has been used in other systems. So in this case, the source separation interface has been used by EVOG in some of the blue diversion on SURT. While we're here, I'll give you a little bit of a view to how some of the other parts of the tech directory look different. If you go into the complete systems tab, for example, you see I have a lot more filters to choose from up here at the top. And what we've tried to do is implement these to help you narrow through all the information that's here in the directory to find things that are most relevant to you. So if you know you only want to know about technologies that are suitable for single stall toilets, or maybe you're not interested in individual stalls, you want to know about the omniprocessor technologies that can be implemented along with a fecal sludge or sewage treatment plant to process biosolids or fecal sludge. You can click these filters and hit filter, and it will narrow the field of technologies that are shown in the table below to only the ones that you're interested in. The same goes for the filters under processing and development status. If you know that you are looking for an opportunity to get involved in technology development, you might choose the option to show me all the systems that are in development still, that people are still working on, right? Because that will help you narrow to focusing on the ones that you might be able to reach out to the developer and form some partnership with. In the processing area, you know you're most interested in membrane-based systems, or you know you're interested in electrochemical systems, you can narrow that way. If you know that you want something that treats solids and liquids separately, or that treats a combined stream, you can narrow that. So hopefully that's been a helpful overview. I will stop sharing my screen now, and we'll jump back to take a look at other questions.
We have a question from Amadou at Delvic, wanting to know if you can be connected to some industries or universities to host field trials. We can certainly make connections. If you would like to give us an email, send us an email at info@stepsforsanitation.org. We would be happy to keep our ears out and make connections where possible.
Great. So in our last few minutes of the webinar today, any other questions?
So another question from Amadou, wanting to know if the deployment of reinvented toilets might impact fecal sludge flows to omniprocessors. I think this is a great point. The vision is that the reinvented toilet and the omniprocessor can both exist in sort of harmony together, that there are opportunities where the reinvented toilet might make more sense, and there are other opportunities where the omniprocessor might make more sense. I don't think the expectation is that you would deploy an OP as well as widespread reinvented toilets in the same environment for the exact reason that you have pointed out. But there may be opportunities to deploy reinvented toilets in more distant remote locations that are hard to access by fecal sludge trucks, as opposed to the omniprocessors that process fecal sludge from septic tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think I don't think it's necessarily an either-or choice for municipal decision makers or others that are trying to solve the sanitation problem. I don't think they're necessarily thinking, will I deploy many hundreds or thousands of RTs, or will I invest in an omniprocessor to better process the waste that I'm already collecting? I think the more likely case is that the RTs will be appropriate for some situations and the OPs will be appropriate for others. See, we have Bincy chiming in with a question, so we'll pause just a few minutes while she gets that in. And other folks, if you have questions, feel free to add them in too.
Hi, Bincy. I think your question is around the valuation of byproducts from OPs and RTs and whether there might be markets for things like urea from urine harvest. Great. Glad we interpreted that one correctly. I think that there, obviously markets for byproducts it's a very local situation. We are not immediately aware of any widespread markets for urea from urine harvest coming out of OPs and RTs. However, that's not to say that they don't exist at a local level. We've done quite a bit of work around looking at markets for other byproducts such as ash, energy, and reuse water, and much of that information can be found on our website. But if you would like to reach out to us and discuss this further in the context of a particular opportunity, we would be happy to chat.
Mm-hmm. Right, and in addition to ash and electricity and reuse water, there is some discussion among the partners in the portfolio about reuse of biogas. The USF technology in particular captures some amount of biogas that's generated during processing of the waste. There is some thinking that this could be either reused on site or potentially sold, but I think there's still more research to be done to understand the future potential there. Great.
So we would like to thank everyone for joining today. Before we close out of the presentation screen, there will be a brief survey. It shouldn't take more than 20 seconds for you to complete that is going to appear on your screen. If you could take the time to answer those questions, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps ensure that our content and delivery to you is useful going forward. So thank you very much, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.